אבל בוא נתחיל, כי אין לו הרבה זמן, ואחר כך לא...
אני, מבחינתי, אפשר, כאילו, אתם יכולים עוד לחתוך, אני עוד יכול לעשות את הפינישים האלה על
אוקיי.
כמה דקות הראשונות.
אוקיי, תגיד מתי אתה רץ.
אני רץ בגדול.
אוקיי.
אז את יכולה להתחיל.
איזה כיף או משהו כזה, כיף גדול.
Hi guys, this is Sheena Reynolds. I'm so excited to be here. I'm in Israel, my homeland. I'm born here. And it's exciting to me to come here after 5 years. I couldn't believe I'm going to meet so many amazing people. But after living in America and seeing what's going on from the outside in Israel and all the conspiracy theories and all the stories and all the footage, I had to come here and see things firsthand. And the reason I wanted to interview the guest I have today is because he was actually a lefty, just like I was. And he made a huge transformation, and he's actually a doctor, an entrepreneur, and a speaker. And he actually did great things. He actually also interviewed Benjamin Netanyahu and a lot of great figures from the politics world. And he knows a lot about history and the history of Israel and the history of America. And enough me talking, let's see what he's going to say. He's going to tell us more about himself.
Hello. Yeah, that was a very flattering description. I wish it was me. I have a podcast, and we are revolutionizing the Israeli media, following the footsteps of the United States. So when Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, decided to come to my podcast to give the only interview since the beginning of the war, the only long-form interview that he did to describe his version of the war from October 7th and up to the point that we talked, which was a few weeks ago, he decided to come to my podcast and not go to any of the networks.
Wow.
So the network, it's like Donald Trump coming to Joe Rogan. I'm not Joe Rogan.
That's
I'm not as big
deal.
as Joe Rogan.
You actually,
But
the Israeli Joe
yeah,
Rogan.
it's Israeli size, all this. But it's a revolution in the media because the channels that are the mainstream media, which is distorting everything and lying about everything, now they call me because they want the rights to cut pieces from my interview with Netanyahu. And after the interview, they called me and said, "Do you want to come to talk about your interview?" And I said, "I don't need to promote my interview in your channels. People come to me already. We don't need you anymore." And that's what I hoped would happen, because the media, what happened to the media and the left, they say, we have right-wing channels, as you have in America. You have Fox News on one side and you have the legacy media on the other side, but it's not symmetric. It's not. True, both have strong opinions, one to the left and one to the right, but what happened on the left is that lies have been legitimized because left-wing media has decided that its role is to improve the world, not to describe it. And so what these people are doing when they're sitting in their editing room, they're thinking, what can I tell my viewers that will bring them to the right conclusions? We won't give you the raw material. We won't give you the food. We're going to chew it and digest it, and then you can regurgitate it.
Just like Hollywood?
Just like Hollywood.
Just like scripted?
Everything is indoctrination, and not news. So yes, right-wing news is also biased, but to lie is shameful on the right, and it's not so on the left. So if you want to sell to your viewers that Donald Trump is Hitler, then it's okay in your ethos to cut things out of context, to lie about him, to perpetuate the Charlottesville hoax, to spend 3 years on the idiotic Russiagate hoax, or to just ignore the Hunter Biden laptop.
Yeah, and I want to add something to that. Something that to me personally, it's odd, because I was a lefty for a long time, just like you, right? And we always wanted to, to do the right thing. That's why we went there to begin with. And today, it's like every country you go and the left control, like the radical left, right? Like Sweden, England, Germany. Like you see it completely becoming to a chaos.
Yeah.
Like the people of the country suffers and nobody wants to put the finger on it. People scared from the truth. We become a world of people like literally lying to each other. It's like, I know it's a tough subject, but it's like lying. I can say I'm a woman, I can say I'm black, I can say I'm this, I can say I'm that, and everything's okay by the name of politically correctness, right?
I have to tell you first that even when I was on the left, I hated identity politics, postmodernism, what is now called woke and was called PC back then, political correctness. And I got into a lot of trouble with my friends on the left because my first book, 1997, was a fierce attack on, or blunt attack on the radical left, and including some holy cows like radical feminism and all the rest of the woke crowd, post-Zionism, postmodernism, and I got a lot of fire then. And also people said, why is this important? This is BS. This goes on in some remote department in some university. Who cares? Now you see, that was 30 years ago.
Exactly.
And now you see that it moved to the center, and we are all supposed to sing this song. And you see how rotten it is. Let me give you the most controversial example. You see how American and woke feminism all over the world turned against the rape victims of Hamas.
Exactly.
Because Jewish women are oppressors and they have agency. So it is their fault, because these oppressed people, they don't have agency. So whatever they do should be excused. And so you see Judith Butler, like the big oracle of queer theory and feminism, and she suddenly she's saying, oh, well, this is armed resistance. So we are supposed to justify mutilating women, raping them to death, burning young girls, and that is armed resistance. And suddenly we don't believe the evidence. They GoPro'd all this. They broadcast all this to their families. And what a culture is it that applauds these things?
It's not just that. What you just said, that's what amazed me personally after October 7th, that the first time in history, the perpetrators literally took webcam and documented everything they did.
They were
themselves.
Proud of it. Yeah.
No, themselves. And the world have all the evidence out there, right? And the world still looking at us like, it's okay. It's not okay to say the N-word, but it's okay to say F Jew.
I'll tell you about the B word, because, Netanyahu, when he came to speak to the joint session of the two houses of Congress, he said, echoing the famous book by Samuel Huntington, he said, this is not a clash of civilizations. This is a clash between barbarism and civilization.
Yes.
And you can't say barbarians in a university today. You're supposed to admit the equality of all cultures. And so this is not a different civilization. This is animalistic barbarism, and we should call it by name. And that was something we should have done much earlier. I did my PhD in an American university. I think it was the last minute that I could do that because they basically boycotted me for criticizing political correctness.
And this is crazy. And I want to say something else regarding to what you said before. To me, it's crazy, not because what happened in October 7 and the world denying that. It's like, you see literally what happened in England. You see what happened in France. You see what happened in Sweden. Aren't you afraid? And also, okay, like that, and I don't. Muslims are billions in the world. Like what, 1.1 or 1.2?
More.
Okay? And of course, not all Muslims are savages. I have a lot of Muslims acquaintances, colleagues, people that I work with. Of course, a lot of them are nice people, also in Israel, right? But the small quantity, like the 10%, the 20%, whatever, right, that it's radical, it's destroying their own people too. I think Muslims, more than anybody, should be afraid and work against the radicalism. Because if you're a Muslim woman today and you want to live a little bit free, you can't. Because if Sharia law would be applied, that would suffer even more than us. They're the first one that they're going to apply it on them. Am I right?
Sure. And of course, the majority of Muslims are not terrorists, but the majority of terrorists are Muslim.
Exactly.
And this is something that you have to say, and you're supposed to not say that.
People scared.
People scared. And I'll tell you something worse. A few years back, My friend, Igal Carmon, who is the president of MEMRI, the Middle Eastern Media Research Institute, what they do is translate from Arabic. And he started noticing what is going on in mosques in the United States and Canada,
I know about
North America.
it, by the way, I know about it.
Yeah, and he collected about 100 files of sermons by imams inside the United States and in Canada. And about 95% of them were wild anti-Semites, many calling for violence against Jews, inciting for violence. And then he went to
Not just against Jews, by the way.
And then he went to Jewish organizations, and they wouldn't touch it. Shame on them. Lefties, of course.
Yeah.
They wouldn't touch it. Why? Because they are afraid of being called Islamophobic.
You know what scares me personally, living in America and seeing the attitude that mainly come from the Jews? You know, I have a lot of Christian friends and colleagues that they work so hard to make the country, you know, good, clean, and they're not anti-Semite, right? But then you come to the Jews that's supposed to be supporting Israel and, you know, tell the truth about the lie narrative that it's an occupied country and we're this and we're that, and like literally teach the real history, not doctrinating the people with the lies, right?
Yep.
And the problem is that the Jews, unfortunately, more than anybody, creating the problems. I think, and honestly, I don't want to sound horrible, but even in Israel, like everywhere I go, the problems and the obstacle I have, it's more with the Jews than with the Christians or the Muslims. Because I think a lot of Muslims today actually understand what's going on, but they're afraid to speak. But the Jews who are supposed to be educated and smart and support Israel and feel this urge of support to their country, they don't even look at that.
Well, first of all, the Palestinians, about 75% of them supported the October 7 massacres.
I'm not talking about Palestinians.
So the Palestinians are one thing. About Israeli Jews, I think we're ignoring the ones that are supportive of Hamas. Of course, that's you can't generalize about everybody. But about the Jews in the United States, look, some of these Jews have become adversaries. They're not my friends. If they call for an embargo on weapons on Israel, like J Street, the offices of J Street in Israel should be shut down, and they should all be expelled from this country. If you call for an embargo on my country when it's fighting for its life, you don't belong here. And stop pretending that you are pro-Israel and that this is tough love. You're not pro-Israel.
Yeah.
You're undermining our very existence. And let me tell you, Sheena, this is not a new thing. There has been, since the United States and Zionism were the two valid solutions to the predicament of Jews in the 20th century. The European Jews were basically in a trap, and they could only find escape to the United States and to Israel. It's not that the gates were open to the United States. It's just that in the United States, you could live as a Jew, whilst in Europe, you see what is happening.
But even with that being said, do you know why Cedar Sinai was open, right? The hospital. Because all the Jews, when they finished med school, they couldn't get a job because they were Jewish. It was a derogatory word. So they opened Mount Sinai. Everything you see today, the banks, the hospitals, everything happened because of racism and discrimination against them, which is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the end, you could live as a Jew in America. This is because American identity, which Americans did, if you allow me, I'm not an American, but I study the United States and its culture. Americans don't see their own national identity. They think that it's a great, big, pluralistic tapestry, while there is much that is unifying to them. And but under this unifying American, you know, it goes back to the founders. You know, President Adams laughed at Thomas Jefferson because he said, "You keep saying that you're a Virginian, but when you go to Europe," he was an ambassador in France, "you suddenly become an American. So when you're here, there's great differences between you and Massachusetts. But when you go there, you suddenly see that we're all Americans."
Yeah.
So Americans are Americans. When Tony Soprano goes to Italy Italy, he suddenly discovered that he's not Italian.
He's American.
He's just an American with an Italian accent. He doesn't know how to
Italian
do
descent,
business
yeah.
in Italy. He doesn't speak Italian. He doesn't know how to hit on a
Yeah.
woman in Italy, which is worse for him.
course.
So he suddenly discovered he's an American.
Yeah.
So, but in America, you can still preserve your heritage. Why?
Yeah.
Because American identity is projected on the future. It doesn't just flow from the past. Whilst in England, if you're British, then it is because your father was British, you speak English, your grandparents spoke English, you know the Round Table and King Arthur, and you know Shakespeare and Manchester United.
Yeah.
But in America, you can become an American and still preserve your heritage. So Jews could preserve their Jewish identity in America,
Judaism, yeah.
not in a way different from Europe.
Yeah.
So that was one valid solution. The other valid solution was Zionism, which said if you want to have full Jewish lives, you need a Jewish state.
I want to touch 2 points with you.
But just to finish this point, there is a tension between the two. American Jews have always been accused of dual loyalty, because when Zionists said Judaism is a national identity, they create a problem for American Jews who say, no, this is a cultural identity. Our national identity, we're American, we're patriots.
Yeah.
So there's always been a tension. But on the margin, these people have become anti-Zionists. And I'm not talking about Jewish Voice for Peace, who are crazy anti-Semites. But if you look at J Street, these are enemies of the State of Israel.
Yeah.
Enemies of the State of Israel.
I think, okay, 2 things I want to touch with you. First of all, about Zionism, living in America and doing a lot of podcasts, I've been attacked and accused many times in a derogatory way. You're a Zionist, this, Zionist, that. And I try to explain to them that it's only a simple word. You know, Zionist is Zion. It's the ancient name of Israel. And we have the right to go back to Zion. You know, if you haven't been indoctrinated that Israel is an occupier, you knew what Zionism means. Plus, you also have a proof, like in Yemen, you know, you have the main city called Sana'a. It means Sana. It's a Zion in the ancient word, you know, because all the Jews that got there, they call it Zion. So you have so many evidence through the history regarding this Zionist word. And today, because all the young, and I think, and that's what I wanted to touch with you about, you have people like Dan Zarin, Andrew Tate, Candace Owen, all these people who are like young podcasters / you know, news and media people, right? That smart, okay, semi-educated, I call them, right? They educate in how they want to be educated, right? And they come to the media. They have a lot of young people that watch them and follow them, and they say few very smart things. And then when it comes to the topic of Israel, you know, Candace Owen being in Israel once in a trip with our entourage and say, I've been in Israel. I know Israel is this and Israel. She doesn't know nothing about Israel. Sorry, but what the hell are you talking about? You know?
These are anti-Semites.
Yeah, and Andrew Tate, did you see what he said about Israel?
We just, you know, I have a podcast with Mike Duran called Israel Update, and we just dissected a segment of Tucker Carlson, who came to Megyn Kelly's show, and Megyn Kelly was shamefully nodding at this nonsense, anti-Semitic nonsense.
Yeah.
And of course, and he's denying that he's an anti-Semite.
Tucker is anti-Semite.
While he's expressing every single anti-Semitic trope.
Yeah.
And what's his testimony that he's not? Some of my friends are Jewish. And then he says, I called the Israeli government.
What Jews? The anti-Semite Jews?
He said, I called the Israeli government and I told them, stop these attacks. Because you see, it's all coordinated. The elders of Zion are now sitting in Israel, and they sent all their attack dogs on Tucker Carlson. And then he said, all the wars, the Jews cause the wars. It's again, the Jews are going to drag us into a war. And then he brings this nutcase, this martyr maid. His name is Daryl Cooper,
okay.
who is a fake historian who is wondering who is the bad side of World War II. Is it Churchill or Hitler? Because Churchill dragged us into this war. And you know why Churchill did this? because he had all these Jewish financiers.
Yeah,
calling
they make up stories and they believe in them. And I want to tell you, in every podcast now, I don't know if you follow the American podcast today, but in every podcast, they make up the history of their own on the Jews. They take bits and parts from stories and create something that doesn't really exist or match the real history.
Yeah, and
it's sad.
And they seduce good people. I was shocked to see Joe Rogan fall for these people.
Yes.
And you see, this is, you have to understand, for the woke, being against Zionism is not just part of their worldview. It's the litmus test. It's who they are. And they cannot, because for in their view, who is responsible for everything bad in the world? The West. So European colonialism, slavery, racism, imperialism, all that. And so the West has repented. But Zionism is continuing. Zionism is the last outpost of colonialism. So,
crazy.
So if you don't renounce if you adopt Zionism, then the whole edifice collapses. This is why a feminist oracle like Judith Butler is siding with wild rapists. She's supposed to be this. These are the people from the Me Too movement. In the Me Too movement, we all believe you, right? We believe you.
Yeah.
You don't need evidence. We believe you. And suddenly, when these women, Israeli women, are raped, and there's not just evidence, there's GoPro evidence, so that suddenly, no, we have to give more context.
It just show you the world, you know.
Yeah,
it's so hypocrite.
That's because in the woke worldview, Zionism.
But they're
is
not woke. They're the opposite of woke.
The woke is just a title for the political
I know,
correctness. But you know, Candace Owens is woke on the right, and so is Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
It's the same collection of tropes. It's the same idiocy.
I think that Candace Owens going on a rampage of Jew hating, you know, like everything she did in the last few months.
She's making a lot of money, Sheena.
Of course,
that's a lucrative. Anti-Semitism is a lucrative business.
That's why I wanted to collaborate with you, and I think we have a lot to talk about, and I think we can, you know, do a lot of things. Like when I saw you speaking, I was like, oh my God, like I have to collaborate with people like that, because I'm alone in my field in America, because a lot of people, you know, that I know, they're like either anti what I say or they're pro, but they're scared to talk.
So who listens to the podcast? People want to hear.
I tell you what, now I don't do my podcast on politics. Most of my podcast is relationship, neuroscience, stuff like that. Now when that's the reason I came to Israel. And I talk about politics in other podcasts. I have no choice. They calling me a Zionist and I have to defend myself.
We're destroying your podcast now as we speak.
No, I don't think so. I think we have a lot of audience in the world, the eager to have this type of conversation and know the truth firsthand, not from Candace Owens, okay, that actually practiced in a religion that she believed in, a Jewish person who was never a Christian, who born and died Jewish with the Jewish values and a Jewish method of life, right? And she's coming to preach us what she's doing. So I do think we have a good voice, and I think we should talk even more, because I think it's a lot of audience for this, because people are waiting for that.
Yeah, my personal view on this is that don't play defense, just play offense.
No,
these people are supposedly occupy the higher middle ground, and they're saying you're a racist. So now you have to explain that you are not. Don't explain.
No, I'm not explaining.
I don't
okay
explain.
with being called a racist. It's funny though, because I'm Arab, I'm Jewish, I'm Israeli. My grandfather was from Ethiopia. So how can I be racist, right? I'm everything, first of all. Second of all, this is stupid. For everything they don't like, they call racist. As Jews, we cannot be racist. We've been hunted, we've been killed, people have been racist to us. If you're racist, you're just ignorant. I think the Jews who hate Israel, this is the real racism, not us.
I'm a European, white, straight, Ashkenazi male, so I have everything wrong, right? And I don't care. You're not going to make me apologize for who I am, and you're not going to make me apologize for saying the truth. And you know, it's now it's a little bit easier in Israel because I think we managed to isolate those crazies, and I think that they now think that they're riding high. As we speak now, the most politically correct crowd the leftist Kaplan anti-Bibi demonstrators, they think they're going to convince reserve soldiers who have been drafted yesterday, who've been drafted, they think they can convince them not to come. And we'll see. Let's see tomorrow how much influence they have, because they basically own the media. They have a shower of money. We now know, because Ilan Goldenberg is an anti-Israeli, ex-Israeli, who worked for Kamala Harris. And he was working at State Department, on the sanction mechanism. It never happened in the history of the United States that they created a mechanism for systematic sanctions against citizens of an allied country. This is the first time ever under Joe Biden they did this, and Ilan Goldenberg was there at the heart of it. And then he was hired by Kamala Harris, who it would have been a disaster for us if she would have been elected. But he was on her team, supposedly the liaison to the Jewish community.
So he was basically her monkey.
Yeah, and he was now interviewed on Channel 13, and he said, the Biden administration invested a lot of money in trying to topple Netanyahu. So that was what they were doing since the beginning of the war. What they were doing was undermining Israeli democracy and orchestrating a color revolution. They were paying these demonstrators. These demonstrators got money, some of this federal money. Now we know, because of Elon Musk, USAID, we know how much money was funneled to an attempt to undermine the democratic rights of Israeli citizens.
Yeah, even here in Israel, when I try to explain it to people as a really radical left, when I left Israel.
You were radical?
I was radical left. I was going to protest everything. I was an actress. Julian Omar was my friend. We went to I was playing in...
Whatever happened to him?
He got killed by terrorists in Gaza. It's crazy. And
but he was not exactly in his right mind, was he?
Not really. He was very anti-Israel. His mother was Jewish, but he was anti-Israel. Yeah.
And he used to do all these provocations, get naked in bars and smear himself in olive oil or something.
Yeah.
Colorful guy.
It's crazy. And then when I was living there, and I'm a person, I like to talk, but I also like to be quiet and absorb, right? And when you absorb enough time, you connect the dots. And then I realized that the agenda is literally, I was in an event for the UN, for heaven's sake. Big top celebrities were sitting at the same table. I'm not going to say names, but they refused to take pictures with me because I'm a Zionist. And then a Palestinian guy, go on stage giving a speech for an hour and giving demonstration. This Palestinian kid and the big bulldozer come and this animal and they did this and they did that. And I'm sitting there and people say, oh my God, this Zionist. And I'm sitting there and I'm feeling, nobody know I'm humiliated, but I felt humiliated because...
I don't stay for speeches like this.
But I want to listen to it and I want to absorb the people there. I'm curious. I have a thick skin. I don't care, And I was there and I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? This is not how that works. I've been there. I speak Arabic. I've been in places, some places I can't even say, but I've been in places. I know what's going on. This is not an apartheid country. We have the judge who are judging Benjamin Netanyahu, for heaven's sake, was Arab. What more than that? You know what I mean? They're lawyers, they're singers, they're actors, news anchors. They pay less taxes than us. It's so many evidence out there. So, sometimes I'm feeling like I'm losing my mind because you want to scream and say, how the people, and I realize, I have to say that, more people in America are educated, like lawyers, doctors, whatever. I feel more they get a little bit delusional because when they have the title, with the certification, they think they're entitled to claim something that they don't even have a clue in just because of the title of the, you know?
George Orwell once said that some ideas are so stupid that only intellectuals can believe in them.
Yeah, because it's exactly like art. You come to a museum, you see the most ugly picture, and they charge $30,000, $40,000. It's ugly, but it's like the king is naked, and people embarrassed to say it's ugly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but also they are tempted by things that sound good. My interpretation of the left versus right mentality is that the left judges everything by intention and the right judges everything by results. And this is why the left believes...
It's smart. I never thought about it like that.
This is why the left believes that the right is evil.
Yeah.
Because why don't you want minimum wage? Why don't we give the poor more money? Well, why? Because when you start doing
them,
it,
exactly.
when you start doing this, you end up with everybody being poor. That's why. But you don't care about the results. You care about the intention. The intention is good.
But you know
Let's
what's the problem with the intention? It's a point I want to touch. It's just like radical feminism. When we make our decision based on feelings, right? And specifically with women, you know, it's hard for me being a woman among other women because most women think with emotion. I don't, you know? I look at reality. Like, I'm not going to do something stupid just because I want to be vindictive to a man. I don't think with my emotion. I can date you and get hurt by you and you can be an asshole to me. It's okay. But I'm not going to do something crazy just because you're being an asshole, because I put my feelings aside and I do the right thing, or I don't do nothing at all. So most people that think with their feelings, right? It's people that end up doing things that are very chaotic because they don't think about the future.
I think that's absolutely right. And this is how Palestinian propaganda works. They show you dead babies.
Of course, emotion. Oh my God!
And of course, nobody wants to kill babies.
Of course, we don't want to kill babies either.
But they killed babies on purpose, and what they are doing now is they are killing Palestinian babies on purpose because they are putting the babies in the line of fire in order to create propaganda.
Exactly.
And if you look at international law, then according to international law, if you use people as human shields, then their death is on you, not at the people shooting at you. But it's very, as you say, it's very easy to manipulate people's feelings.
With emotion, exactly. Yeah. But I want to touch on something that you just mentioned, because I never heard a conversation that actually touches that. I was actually thinking about it that week with my Arab friend. I can understand, not in the way you think. Let me just finish so you understand my point. I can understand the point of view of the Palestinian person that sits in Gaza, don't have money, don't have normal school, don't have normal life, can't go to a coffee shop, can't make a decision. He's been afraid, and he's been indoctrinated from age of 0 that the oppressor is the big monster Zionist. When you look across the border, they live nice life, they go out, they dress beautiful, they travel and everything. Of course you're going to hate them and they're going to think they're source of all evil because you've been indoctrinated, but they don't tell the Palestinian people that they actually, I think that's my personal idea, right? I think that the radical left all over the world, right? Israel and Europe and everything, collaborated somehow with the UN and Palestinian leaders and terrorist organization, right? I think they all collaborated and they hijacked the Palestinian people in order to use them as a collateral to keep this money machine, to create this so-called Palestinian-Israeli conflict so they can make money. Because it's like, for me, that's how I see it. It's like a pyramid. You have the monkeys who go to all the protests. Like these idiots, they think they're smart and they know what they're doing because they want to fight for a cause. But when you fight for a cause, you need to dig in and understand the cause before you just do it, right? And then you have the people who are in the offices of like B'Tselem and, BDS and all these, things. And then you have the other people, the anchors of the news and the people who go and speak in universities and everything and go and on and on and on and on. All of them making tons of money. And sometimes when you know that the money is so easy, when you say a lie for such a long time, the lie becomes the truth and you feel like you're actually fighting for a cause, that you forgot that what took you there is different things. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. There's a collaboration. They call it a green-red alliance. Red for communism and green for radical Islam. So the woke cultural Marxists are giving aid and legitimacy to jihadists who believe in the exact opposite of what the woke are trying to promote. So when you see something like Gays for Palestine,
I just wanted to say that.
You think, how stupid can you get? How dumb and ignorant can you get? If you are screaming for to free Palestine with the gay rainbow sign, do you know that if you step 1 foot into Gaza, you'll be blindfolded and thrown off a 4-story building?
It's not just that, like, it's funny when you try to actually say that to American, they would look at you like you're nuts, like what are you talking about? Like, they're in our side. And I'm like, no, they're not.
Yeah, so I saw.
They don't like it.
So let me tell you, Sheena, I saw this guy who did wonderful stand-up. I don't remember his name. I wish I did, because I would give him credit. No, I don't think so. But he said, look, white women are very privileged in America.
Of course.
And if you have a fight with your wife and she goes crazy and you call the police, they'll arrest you, not her.
Not her.
So imagine you could call Hamas.
Yeah,
there would be a helpline for Hamas.
That's scary.
Hello, Habibi, what is your problem?
Yeah.
It's my wife. She's going crazy. Okay, we're coming. 4 guys in a Toyota. So who are you rooting for? These people with purple hair, they support a regime where you can't show your natural hair, let alone your pink hair. They would cut your head off for taking off your headgear. So what?
Taking 9-year-old girls, 7-year-old girls, dying from sex activity they didn't choose. It's literally a rape by the law, like it's legal.
And in England, in the name of community relations, they're just turning a blind eye to grooming gangs. So what happened with the woke is, I call it's a moral inversion. You start with super tolerance. By being so tolerant, you accept the people who completely despise your values, and you don't allow to criticize them because that's racist. But by not criticizing them, you allow them to be racist. So Andrew McCarthy, one of my favorite columnists, he writes for the National Review, said, there's no such thing as Islamophobia. Islamophobia is a term invented by the Muslim Brotherhood in order to discourage any criticism of Sharia supremacy. That's what it is. So in the name of anti-racism, you are basically protecting rape, the killing of gays, the oppression of women, and child slavery. That's what you're protecting because you're so woke, because you will put pink colors in your hair and then go to scream free Palestine. You don't know shit about the world. You just don't know anything about the world. You should generally shut the up.
No, you can curse. It's a podcast.
Yeah, and go look at some real news.
Yeah.
And this is why the alternative media is picking up.
Yeah, and people want to hear it. That's why I think, now when you watch podcasts in America, and let's say Zionism become the topic, or transgender or feminism or whatever, one person say one thing, like for example Andrew Tate say one thing, 6 months later all the podcasts literally mimic him. You see Dan Zarin sitting there and literally mimic like a parrot, like an idiot. One word by one, like, I'm like, seriously, man, you're supposed to be a millionaire, billionaire, you have a lot of money and everything, and all of a sudden you know what you were talking about Israel? Come talk to us, come talk to me, come talk to like person like you.
But it's not about us. It's not really about us.
It's more popular.
It's about feeling good about yourself. It's it's narcissism. You think that we're in
a narcissism era.
Exactly, exactly, and so these rabbis who refuse to give their congregations information about the anti-Semitism of imams, what they are doing is they are more concerned with their image than with the safety of their congregation.
Yeah.
They're willing to neglect the physical safety of their congregations in order to seem moral in front of the general public. And as I told you, this comes from a study by my friend Igal Carmon, and he said, look at France, look at Paris, look at Malmo, where Jews cannot go in the street wearing a kippah or a Star of David, and just know, if you don't resist this now, 10 years down the line, in America, Jews will not be able to put
It's already started. What are you
Yeah, it
talking
started
about?
on campuses. Yeah, he said that about 5 years ago.
You want to hear something?
Sure.
The last few months in the south of the boulevard in Los Angeles, it's been like at least 7-8 houses of Israelis been burglared, people being beaten, being killed. I don't see it in the news. Nobody talks about it. People scared in America in certain places. But nobody talks about it because it's Jews. It's okay. It's politically correct to hate Jews, to hate Zionists, but it's not okay to say the M word. And you know what I also noticed? If you look at the history of the African Americans in America, even, what's her name? I think it was Billie Holiday, if I'm not wrong. She sang in Hebrew. Then you had the song, The Rhythm of Babylon. And you had so many songs like Bob
Go
Marley.
Down Moses.
Yeah, Go Down Moses. Everybody, the African American community was pro-Zionism.
I can tell you where the turning point was. The turning point was 1966. Martin Luther King supported Zionism.
Of course.
But then
They don't know
But
that.
then in 66, the civil rights movement was taken over
Yeah.
by Black Power,
Yeah.
and Stockley
and radical
Carmichael
feminism, yeah.
rose to the top of SNCC, the Black Student Movement, and then they threw out all the Jews from the civil rights movement in the South, and then the rise of the Black Panthers, and then Malcolm X, and these people already came with a theory baked by communists where Zionism was colonialism, and then it ended up with Farrakhan and all these theories that the Jews were actually behind all the slave trade.
But you know what's the new trend to say? The Jews run the world with the two families of Rothschild, and Trump being hijacked by the Jews,
Sure,
controlled by Israel.
Ask
And
Tucker
it's so
Carlson.
it's so
Ask Tucker
hilarious.
Carlson.
It's so hilarious. I'm like, seriously, what else are you gonna say? Like, and about regarding the African American community, that's funny because in America, who actually fund a lot of their stuff, Black Lives Matter, all these movements, the people who actually donate money for the school and everything, it's all Jewish people. All
Yeah.
Jewish schools, Jewish hospitals.
Where was your head when you supported all this woke theory?
Let's tell them about...
Yeah, I'm asking them, not you, of course.
No,
when you contributed money to all this woke, anti-Western, anti-Jewish studies, did you not read Edward Said? Did you not understand that it's going to come and bite you back? Oh, so you said, no, this is criticism of Zionism, not of Jews, it's of Zionism.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like it's different. It's not...
All criticism of... Well, theoretically, there can be a criticism of Zionism that is not anti-Semitic. If you say that you're
Yeah.
against nationalism
Yes.
everywhere, so you're against the nationalism of the Jews too. But if you're for nationalism all over the world, you support the right of everyone to self-determination except the Jews, then you're anti-Semitic. But the theory doesn't matter, Sheena. The reality is all these anti-Zionists, when you dig in a little deeper, they're all anti-Semites. So you Jews who supported these programs at Columbia, where Edward Said was teaching, who supported these programs in Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and everywhere else, now you are waking up. Now you suddenly understood that the end result of this is that students are barred from libraries at the Columbia campus. Students are heckled and harassed and threatened with violence in the Harvard Square. It didn't take a genius to figure out that this would be the end result. So it's high time you just take your money out of there, like Bill Ekman.
I want to ask you a question. Have you ever heard about 1976, what happened to Sudanians in Palestine when they slaughtered them for organs?
No.
You never heard of it? Okay, you can Google it. So that's why it's hilarious. They don't understand even the racism that within the Arab community. Every city you go, usually in an Arab place, it's called a beat town, like slave town. And they don't talk about it.
Oh, yeah. You know Bedouins in
Of course.
Do you know what the krembo is?
Yes.
You grew up in Israel. You know what a
yes.
krembo
Yeah.
is.
And
So it's this candy that we had in
Yes.
Israel. It has a biscuit at the bottom, and then it has whatever it's made of. I think it's disgusting. Sweet
I know, me too.
white
I don't
foam,
like sugar.
and it's covered with dark chocolate, and you know what the Bedouins call a krembo?
Yeah, cool.
Ras El Abid.
Ras al Abid,
Yeah,
the head of the slave.
The head of the slave.
And
Why? Because black Bedouins were slaves imported by Arab tribes.
Yes, I know.
And still to this day, they are among the... This is just showing the light.
Sorry.
So,
Trying to show
to this day, they are relegated to the margins of society. So, but the idea, the idea of the woke is that all forms of discrimination emanate from the hegemonic group, from the group of white, male, straight, European, Christian men. So, dead also. They're all dead.
Yeah.
So they can explain, for instance, the fact that the oppression of Arab women does not come from Zionism. In fact, it was Israel
Exactly the opposite.
that imposed, yes, it was imposed on the local culture, things like gender equality and the fact that women can choose their own profession. So that was a Zionist imposition. But no, they call it intersectionality. Intersectionality is one of the worst lies.
Words games,
Because if you say intersectionality, supposedly, if you're a woman and an Arab, then you're oppressed twice by hegemony, because the group that controls culture oppresses you once as a woman and once as an Arab.
Yeah.
And that seems so... You look at the model, there's this hegemonic group in the middle, and it oppresses everyone, the gays, the Arabs, the women. But the truth is that Arab women are oppressed by Arab culture,
of course,
where women are considered property. And you should ask yourself, as Herzl did, by the way, you should ask yourself, what do you do in a Jewish state vis-a-vis a culture that oppresses gays and women? What do you do? So Herzl, in this book, Alt Neuland, New Old Land, it's where they...
It's in German.
It's in German, but this is also...
Understood it.
Tel Aviv was the original Hebrew translation, because Tel is something old and Aviv is spring. So the city of Tel Aviv was actually named after Herzl's Alt Neuland. But this was a novel that was written in defense of Zionism. And Herzl immediately understood the problem. Immediately. So he said, the Jewish society will give equal rights to Arabs. Does that mean that the Arab sector will be free to oppress its women? Now, since he was not writing a study, but a
That's
pamphlet,
a good question, yeah.
but a pamphlet that was supposed to convince people that Zionism is a good idea, then what happens in the novel is that the Arab protagonist, Rashid Bey, the Arab character, he has a woman he's married, he has a wife named Fatma. And the question is, will she stay at home, or will she be able to participate in the public sphere? And the way Herzl solves the problem is the Jewish society, doesn't say state, the Jewish society gives her all the rights, but she chooses to follow her husband. So this is a way to tell you it can be arranged. But Herzl struck the right chord and pointed at the right problem. What do you do? And what do you do? What do we do with the polygamy in the Arab sector?
Yeah.
This is the most oppressed sector in Israel, is Bedouin women. And and you know who wanted to take care of that?
Who?
Bezalel Smotrich, the radical National Religious Party. It was Smotrich and some of his friends. So they went to the radical left and approached the feminist women of Meretz and Labor, and they said, "Look."
What did they say? I'm curious.
They say we don't. This is not something.
Because they don't really care about the problem.
No, because they can't criticize the Arabs, because in the woke
Political
hierarchy, Arab is holy, because we are white, they are colored, right?
Yeah.
So women is secondary.
But we're not white.
So
majority of Israel not white.
But that's how they're classified. So what is the actual situation on the ground? The actual situation on the ground is that did you know, Sheena, that Bedouin women can give birth 3 times a year? Did you know that?
No.
I bet you didn't.
No,
well, you know why?
Bullshit, right?
You know why? No, it's not bullshit. It's because 5 women live on the same ID card.
Oh,
because
I got it, yeah.
because they are illegally here. They are bought. It's like
I know it
slavery.
is bought, yeah.
They buy them from the territories of Judea and Samaria. They bring them to the Negev,
never knew.
away from their families. They have
up.
5 or 6 women and 50 kids. And when he's tired of that woman because she's grown old, then he goes and buys another woman. And she's not registered anywhere. So if she disappears at the bottom of a well,
women trafficking. That's what I wanted to say.
nobody will know. So, and this is something that the lefties don't want to touch, because that's Islamophobia, you see. That's not nice.
Yeah, you can talk about the Jews, but you can't talk about anything else, because the Jews are a source of all evil. You can crucify them in any given minute.
Yeah, we know
So
that. Ask Tucker Carlson, he knows.
Tucker is completely lost it, I think. Like, sometimes I see...
Yeah, and he should get rid of that creepy laugh. Well, he scares me.
Such an idiot. Yeah, I know. I feel like that too.
I can't even imitate that laugh. Mike and I, as I said, discussed this. So Mike can imitate his laugh, but I can't.
But what also irritates me, it's Andrew Tate. I mean, I used to like some of his ideas, right, regarding women, men, because I'm not very feminist, you know. My idea of feminism, it's different. But when I see that he become more radical, and then they show publicly the stuff he did, like the trafficking he did with the women and trade them and everything for money, it was a shock to me. I couldn't, but I'm like, what the hell? You know, I'm like, every time I'm learning something new, and it's crazy. But I do think, as we speak, because you and me speaking for the first time, I do believe that you and me have so much to talk about. And I think, I don't want to sound pretentious. I don't know if it's good if I say it on the podcast, but I think what Joe Rogan and his friends do, it's a lot less than what you and me can do, because we have so much information, you know. And people eager to hear that kind
the
of
problem
stuff.
with Joe Rogan is that, you know, he is Mr. Common Sense. He's like he's like an innocent. I don't know, but I'm a good guy and I have common sense. So tell me.
Who, Joe Rogan?
Joe Rogan. Yeah. That's his image, and it, to a great extent it's a true image. So, but these manipulative people, our problem.
But they can manipulate anybody, even Joe Rogan, because he's not a politician. He used to fight, for heaven's sake.
That's it. So someone like Martyr May, Darryl Cooper, who is a half-baked historian. He's not really a historian.
Yeah.
But he comes with this pretension. And he said 10 right things in order to say one completely crazy thing. So he can describe a lot of things about World War II and then tell you, you know, the concentration camps were just... There was a problem with food shortage. And they didn't know how to feed all these people. So, that was the problem.
My friend told me that Hitler... Listen, my friend told me that Hitler was actually a good guy, and it was a lot of conspiracy theory.
Oh, poor guy, yeah.
It was such a shock to me to hear it, because, you know, in Israel, it's not like, seriously. In America, people don't sit in Memorial Day and watch movies all day and read stuff and have all these ceremonies that we do in Israel. In Israel, we have literally a lot of history that we learn. The average Israeli know a lot more politics and history and intelligent than the average American, without sounding disrespectful, right? Like, you ask any 20-year-old or 40-year-old in Israel, and they would know a lot more. In America, they can't even name 3 countries when you stop the people on the street and ask them, right?
Yeah. Well, it depends who. You know, America is a big place.
I know, I'm generalizing, but I'm talking size. Okay, I'll phrase it different. If you look at compare the sizes, of course, like Israel, it's a small country, but the majority know a lot of things. In America, yes, it's a huge country. It's 50 states, right? But the average people on the street don't know a lot of things. And even the educated people, as we said, a lot of them get false information. And now I find out that even in Google, you have a lot of people that go to Google and actually write... I forgot.
Articles,
yeah. They write articles, rewriting articles of history, and actually put it in Google, and people believe in it. Just like what they did in Palestine, you know, like say about Palestine, which is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our time is off? You have to go?
Sort of, yeah. I have a long evening.
Do you want to add something?
It was a pleasure to speak with you. And I... listen, I think we should... I don't think we should be careful anymore in what we say.
Yeah.
I think you should just break through the barrier
Yes,
and just
I do think.
smash through it.
Just like Joe Rogan.
Instead of apologizing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to aggravate them or to have them scream. I don't think, they can scream. What happens when they scream? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No, and I do think that people want to hear different stuff, different tune. Because, it's like a spell. When you say the same thing over and over and over again, people start to believe in
But
these
I
things.
think, they are not the majority. But how do they control public speech? They go on the attack and they wait for you to start apologizing. And if you start apologizing, you're like bleeding in the water and all the other sharks come.
Yes.
And what you
that's
should
true.
do is just be in their face and go
No,
on the
I'm
attack.
definitely
So
in the
I
face.
trust you because it seems that you are. But
No.
generally, this is how they skip, because most people are conformists. And so they don't raise the alarm until it touches them, which is what happened with, Jewish students
But
in
it's
Colombia.
going to touch them. Look what happened in England right now. People say, no, we don't want to be racist and everything. But the average English scared. The girl's scared to walk at night.
Look,
It's super
but
dangerous.
I have all the sympathy for Jewish students who are being harassed.
Oh, my
Really,
God,
it's
yes.
not their fault. But where were you before? Didn't you see it coming? Why did you not raise your voices before? Because I sat in classes in the United States.
But America, it's very...
Yeah,
everything is in the box. Everything politically correct. Everything. Oh, don't say this. Don't say that. It's not like in Israel that you say something and it's okay. They make a big deal out of everything. Everything is like, oh, I'm sorry I said it. Oh, I'm sorry I said this. Everything underneath. Even the